Outlaws.
Happy Halloween! It's the 31st October, actually recording on Halloween for Halloween Havoc. How nice is that, Ander? Ander? Why did I go to call you Amber? I've done that before. Adam, it's so good of you to come dressed as as retired David Letterman on Halloween.
I was thinking Ander, I could go like Scandinavian, and that could be like a whole new persona that I could launch there. But yeah, actual Halloween when we're doing the Havocs, you couldn't have planned that much better.
We couldn't. And episode 66, so you could put a little 6 on the end of it, and it could be spooky.
Yeah.
Are you hiding from geysers?
I am. For the first time, I'm recording in my wife's office room, which looks out onto the back garden as opposed to out on the street, like I'm normally facing. So yeah, I am one of these lights off, blind shut people. What about you?
Yes, children are out, guys, and Harry Potter and Voldemort are out, guys, in as we speak. See, you could have came back to me and said, I'm glad you came dressed as Voldemort for Halloween.
Yeah,
Missed opportunity, really.
My bad.
So normally we will talk about Halloween Havoc, which we will. This week we're talking 1996. Spoiler alert, it's not worse than 1995.
Yeah.
And there's a lot less monster trucks.
Less.
So not... Yeah. Less. Normally, we would watch the most popular Halloween/horror movie from the year that we are havocing with. That film this year would have been Scream, so we'd both watched it relatively recently, certainly this year, for pod purposes, I believe. So we decided instead, given we're recording on 31st October, to watch the original John Carpenter's Halloween. Which I had a very nice time with. Did you?
Oh, loved it. It's one of those. It's one of my favourite horror films. And I managed to watch certainly 2 of my 3 or 4 favourite horrors, which is that and The Shining. So yeah, loved it. Wrote quite a few notes, but I just kept getting a bit lost in the film again, because it's one of those where a lot of the time there's nothing happening, but you're still kind of glued to it because you're just waiting for something to happen. It keeps you gripped.
Absolutely, that's what. Well. Let me set out the synopsis for the one person in the world who may not have seen Halloween. 15 years after murdering his sister, what a way to start a synopsis. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night 1963. Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Just what you're saying, the anticipation. That's what I think is probably between that, creating an iconic character, obviously, and the soundtrack. I think those are just the anticipation and the soundtrack just go hand in hand, I think. Those are what I love about this film.
Yeah, there's I sort of look for new things, and there's I think I told you about it. There's a horror podcast that I listen to. I think you listened to a few episodes as well about horror films and the evolution of horror. It's called, so it picks a subgenre and talks through from first film to most recent, and one of the things that I think was mentioned about this when they talked about this that I was then sort of more looking for is the horror films used to be about they make you care about the character, like the central character, so not the killer. And then you want that person to survive. You care. You're invested. And obviously that's the Jamie Lee Curtis character, Laurie.
Laurie, yep.
Yeah. And she comes across as like this good person. And it doesn't take a whole lot. You just end up thinking this is a good person. Whereas her friends are kind of dicks. And that comes across as well. So it never as bothered as they're getting offed, because you're like, yeah, do you know what? They kind of maybe had it coming.
Annoying.
But you do want her to survive. And I think the wee boy as well, who she's babysitting, who is shown as a bit like picked on in the early parts of the film, you're kind of wanting him to survive as well, because you feel kind of bad for him. Whereas I think it'll happen in the sequels for this, and it happens in most sequels for horror film. It becomes more about like enjoying the kills. Rather than hoping for a character to survive. So it's interesting the way those things changed over the years.
Our friends really are quite annoying. The blonde girl that says totally all the time, a little bit annoying. But our other friend, why is she your friend? She just makes an arse of her all the time.
Yeah.
But you're right about little Tommy. He's good in it.
Yeah,
he's good in it as well. Go on.
The soundtrack gets me everything, even though I know what the basic sound of the film is. Every time it starts, I just always think that's amazing.
Oh, it's minimal. You know, like there's the main theme, which is iconic, but the little bits and pieces that is dotted around when he appears from behind the car at one point, and you get like a sort of shrieking noise, and it just jolts you back into the film. And just the little bits and pieces. I love the bit where he's. It's so funny to think of him driving down the street like that, and also hanging about in broad daylight outside the school like that as well.
Yeah.
But I love the bit where he's driving down the street and the girl shouts something at him. Can't remember what she shouts, and he just slams on the brakes. You wonder what he's thinking, eh?
Yeah, and again, it's quite good. We definitely touched on this before about the fact that I think in the Rob Zombie remake tries to give a reason, why he's ended up like this. But in this film, all you know is little boy murdered his sister when he was a kid. That's all you know. And then you get the little bits and pieces with Donald Pleasance, who is Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
Who, there's little things being said right from early on where he and a nurse are going to the hospital where he's being held, and Loomis keeps referring to him as it, and she says he is human, or he is a he, or something like that. And he's like, if you say so. It's just so he kind of overacts it all, but in a brilliant way.
Yeah, it's like coming into the film, everybody that's alive that's come in contact with Loomis is just like, oh, now we get it. Like, you were right. We thought you were over-exaggerating, but you weren't.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. You can either ignore it, or you can help me to stop it.
The sheriff just does not believe him at all, does he? He thinks he's a loon.
Yeah, it definitely takes quite a while, and he's like, he just knows. So Loomis just knows instinctively that he is going to have gone back to his hometown. So he's like tracking him back there, and everyone like keeps putting these like obstacles in his way. Basically, I think one of the first things said, he won't know how to drive a car. He's been institutionalized since he was a kid, and he's like, he was doing fine last night. It's so like, intense with all of his responses. It's amazing.
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever picked up on the bit where Loomis is stopped and he's on the phone to the sheriff. They're like halfway on the way back to, is it Haddonfield that it's called?
Yeah.
Halfway on the way back there, and then he finds a discarded body and where Michael's got the overalls from. Mm-hmm. Where's he got the mask from? The shop that was broken into? Is that what they say? There's a knife in a shop taken or something like that.
Yeah.
He's methodical.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Was it what mask was it? A Shatner mask? Is that what
William
was said?
Shatner,
William
painted
Shatner.
white.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yep.
And all done on a shoestring budget, and all thrown together by Carpenter, and sounds like it was thrown together in quite a short period of time and all that. Brilliant.
Yeah. I like the because we're so used to these kind of horror films now, but I sort of wonder if you were in the audience watching this back then, because as soon as Laurie stabs him, so he's trying to get her, she's in a wardrobe, he's dropped his knife, I think after she hits him in the face with a coat hanger or something, he drops his knife and she gets the knife and she stabs him. And now he is definitely going to get up, because you don't kill these monsters with one, that it's never the first action that kills them. But I was looking thinking, because he sits up and it's in a very Undertaker Kane style way. You see
really
her
is
in the foreground, he's in the background, and he sits up. And I was thinking, imagine you'd never seen a horror film, because they always come back and we know that. That's an awesome moment. It's just brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, I was watching it with my wife and she was just like shaking her head. He got up from the coat hanger and he disappeared after being shot, and she's just like, oh, for God's sake. It's like, but can you imagine if you'd never seen that before, it's been done to death now, that's your reaction, but can you imagine being in the cinema to see that? It would have been amazing. You're terrified.
Yeah, that notion that you can't kill this, you just can't kill it. It's just going to keep coming. That's, brilliant.
Amazing. I'll need to go back and watch Halloween 2. I think I really like Halloween 2. Do they go back to the asylum or wherever it is that it's broken out from in Halloween 2?
No, Halloween 2, she is in the hospital. She's been taken to hospital, Laurie. He is in the hospital. And he basically is tracking her down and trying to attack her and kill her in the hospital.
He just slaughters millions of people in the hospital, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's a wee bit more like played for laughs in certain ways. Like there's some frolicking between doctors and things like that, which is very like comedic in the way it plays until they meet Michael. So it's a bit, it comes across a little bit more lighthearted, but it's still a decent film. The third one, they go totally different. Like there's no Michael Myers in the third one, because apparently they wanted to go more anthology. So they basically just wanted a film at Halloween time that was under the Halloween banner, but they weren't going to go all the way with the Michael Myers thing. But I think it maybe didn't do very well box office, so they went back to Michael Myers after that.
Do you know? We'll get onto the wrestling, I'm sure, at some point. Do you know what I find, like, in both parts, sort of terrifying, but also quite funny, is when the blonde girl and her boyfriend are upstairs in the bed, and he's went downstairs for a beer, and Michael's pinned him to the wall and killed him, and then he comes upstairs with a sheet over his head and his glasses.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did he feel the need to do that? Because he's been terrifying everybody else just with his mask on.
You kind of laugh at that, and you think, well, yeah, should I be laughing? But yeah, that got me as well. Cause I think even if he hadn't put the glasses on, I don't know. It's just, that made me laugh.
I suppose it is quite believable it might have been her boyfriend, because they had quite a jokey, winding each other up type. But it doesn't seem that Michael would think to do that. It's quite funny. It's good.
Nice.
I liked this line from Loomis.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
And just after everything, Laurie's just been fended off a serial killer at this point multiple times, and Loomis has got to get his smart arse quips in. She doesn't need that shit right now.
I think he's in like a surprising number of the sequels. Donald
Is he really?
Yeah. I don't know that anyone's in 3 that's in the first 2, but I think he's the one that, because Laurie will disappear for a while, but I think he continues through a few of them. I watched, like, there was it's maybe the fifth one or sixth, and it's got Paul Rudd in it, quite a young Paul Rudd. And I thought, this is going to be quite fresh. It's still going to be Michael Myers, but it's going to be quite fresh. Not seen it, watched it, and I thought, there he is. There's Loomis.
Still going.
Yeah. Still warning everyone about all this.
You think they should have went off on a tangent where he lost his mind and started killing people that wouldn't listen to him.
Yeah.
Then Michael becomes really concerned about Loomis, and he's like, this guy's unhinged. Anyway,
Nice.
Halloween, absolute classic. If you've never seen it, shame on you. Put this podcast off and go and watch it immediately. Agreed?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah!
Let's talk Halloween Havoc 1996. Shall we, Adam? Shall we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're in Vegas. In Vegas this year, 27th October 1996, in the MGM Grand. Wonder what took WCW to Vegas. That's an odd one. They've been in Detroit the last couple of years. And our hosts, as it were, is Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain Heenan, as we've had the last couple of years. But they've got someone else along with them for the ride. It's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And who the hell thought that was a good idea? Obviously, we've done 1998, or most of 1998 with WCW, and Dusty was on commentary quite a lot then.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is the start of it.
I mean, you would have thought anyone would see this one and think, nah, we won't do that again. Like, he's a legendary talent, and he was a great promo guy and all that, but it does not work as a part of an announced team at all.
Mm-mm. He's just saying things and living in his own wee world and not keeping along with the narrative of what else is going on.
Yeah.
So odd. It made me appreciate how much Schiavone and Heenan have had such a good rapport the last two we've watched, because they were really bouncing off each other. We were loving Heenan, especially in 1994, I think.
Yeah.
The first year, he was great. Okay, Schiavone says that we're going to see the very most important world title match, which I didn't really know what that meant, but I get your point, Tony. First match on the card was for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. It was a champion, Rey Mysterio Jr., taking on Dean Malenko. Big Malenks. Rey Mysterio was 21 here. He's very small.
Yeah. Like, I think it's he's obviously always been little in terms of height, but when you see him here, what he ends up looking like physically is crazy.
It really is. He's so small. I don't mean, when I say small, I don't, obviously, he's never grown in height, but his upper body just got, especially when he went on that, in the 2000 and what would that been, 2002, 3 run, when he started on SmackDown. He was just, I remember him just looking pretty huge.
It must be about 3 times the size than he is here.
What do you think of our opening contest?
I thought it was okay. I was quite enthusiastic, and Dean Malenko is. They mentioned, I think, the man of 1,000 tolds here thing. He
tried to prove it.
He did a bit, yeah. They talk about a situation with Malenko taking Rey Mysterio's mask, but it's one of them where I felt like I just got a tiny little throwaway comment in what I think was maybe supposed to have been the big story, and I'm trying to piece it together myself a little bit in terms of what's going on there. Mysterio does. It's one of those where Malenko is obviously getting to be the big powerful guy, and I think we've seen him be that a couple of times in the cruiserweight division. And Mysterio is gonna bump, and he is gonna fly all over the place. I thought it had some moments. I thought it was okay. I thought it was maybe. I wondered if we were getting towards the attempt to get off to a fast start by having a bit of wrestling on the go. I definitely feel like we've seen a lot worse in recent
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. There's a bit of a story here with Mysterio starting out fast. Malenko tries to slow him down. He goes through a little phase of just rolling through different submission holds, a bit like on a computer game where you're pressing all the different buttons and seeing what happens. But I quite like that. I quite liked him slowing him down, particularly he has him in the sleeper. At one point, Mysterio starts tapping, but I assume that is not just a wee mistake there. Siesta time, amigo, says Brain. Something Dusty. Dusty says that Ray lives, sleeps, and eats his cruiserweight title, which I thought was an odd approach to looking after your championship belt. There's times where it gets a little bit choreographed and a little bit dancey, which I didn't love, but generally I enjoyed it as well. It was good fun. I like that dynamic of a cruiserweight match where you've got like a sort of powerful cruiserweight who is power bombing and can throw the guy about and some lovely reversals from Mysterio at times as well. So I enjoyed it as well. Nice. I think the finish came about with a power bomb for the top rope, was it, from Malenko?
Which looked pretty awesome. I think they had. So Ray had been doing a few quite high impact moves, and then I think Ray had attempted another move, and Malenko reversed it into a powerbomb off the ropes, and then I think actually he hit one powerbomb and he kicked out, and then there was a big powerbomb, and that was it. I think Mysterio went in as champ, didn't he? So Malenko won the belt here.
Yeah. Okay. We go backstage, and we are with a man with the voice of an angel.
Who?
Lee Marshall.
Is this?
That man can read me an audiobook anytime. What a voice he's got. Do you recognise this guy?
No, not at all. Like, when I saw him, I thought, have I seen this guy before? And I was like, I think the voice is what grabs you. But yeah, I was like, I definitely haven't seen this guy on a show before, like in the timeline. So this must be an early appearance for him here. But then I was thinking, is he going to stick around? I just didn't recognise him.
I hope so. I might just watch remaining WCW pay-per-views between now and next year, but just flick through until he's doing the segments. He's kind of taken on the Mean Gene role as Mean Gene has been doing the last couple. Anyway, this heavenly voiced man, Lee Marshall, is backstage. He's with Double J, Jeff Jarrett. He is taking on the Giant tonight. He cuts like a relatively good promo, but my only issue is he keeps going ha-ha in between, like halfway through a ha-ha-ha sentence, which is really weird.
Yeah, that was,
Ric Flair appears and is Ric Flair style animated and excited, and you can imagine, you can't see his feet, but you can imagine them going. He's shouting, and he's in Jeff Jarrett's corner.
He was annoying me a wee bit here. Yeah, I was like, I thought that like you, the ha-has were unnecessary, but I thought the Jarrett promo was fine, and then there was Flair, and so Flair was supposed to face the Giant. I think that was certainly the match that they said they were originally going with, and then Flair has removed himself from that, so Jarrett's like stepping in for him.
Because Giant chokeslam Flair or something like that. Chokeslammed on the floor or something. Yeah.
So and I had been thinking, is Flair at it? Is there something, because we've all been chokeslammed. Well,
hold on, start again. The number of times we've seen Flair in this situation, and he's then stabbed the man whose corner he was supposed to be in the back. But we know that he doesn't join the NWO, but you could still see him doing this,
like
for
maybe
whatever
just
reason.
Wanting Jarrett out, or not wanting the association anymore, so he'll just screw him over. I was just from this, I was expecting it. But
they seem to have 5 horsemen here. Jarrett seems to be a sort of unofficial horseman, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I know that, I suppose in the days when it was a sort of legendary stable, there were the 4 in-ring performers, and then there was like a mouthpiece. a lot of the time. So there were quite often 5 guys in there associated with being the Horsemen. And I remember, I think, like, I've heard Jarrett talking about being a Horseman, because he talks about having been in basically every faction that ever existed, but like most of them he's just in them for about a day or something like that, and then he gets moved on. So I was sort of piecing it together in my head that he must be a Horseman here, and the Horsemen are maybe. What was the situation with the Horsemen in the last one? Did they kind of reunite? Or
Yeah,
Flair
did remember it was
back in?
Pillman.
Yeah.
Pillman, Flair, and Arn, and they were going to recruit Benoit not long after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're referring to Steve McMichael as an in-ring performer. We'll get on to that though. Our second match is the Battle for the Ring, which sort of plagues WCW pay-per-views every now and again. Yeah. They do this, what is it, like a Battle Bowl ring or something like that?
Battle Bowl ring, so I assume. So the story seemed to be that Eddie had won the Battle Bowl ring, and DDP just stole it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't know where the ring was, but somehow DDP ended up with just like finding it in the corner of the ring after the match.
Yeah.
Dear me. So this was DDP versus a face, Eddie Guerrero, who I was thinking kind of looked like a bit of a Latin Francis Begbie.
Oh, yeah. I can
Could
see
you see that?
Yeah, from like Train Spotting style days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Francis Begbie. Yeah, you didn't say the actor, you said the character.
Not Robert Carlyle.
Yeah. He's definitely got the look. He's got a bit of a dodgy wee moustache or something like that, and borderline mullet on the go, and a wee bit of rage in him.
I really enjoyed this match. I think I enjoyed it more than a lot of the matches on this card. I think it was quite a throwaway match, but I really quite enjoyed it. I thought these two worked well together. What do you think of it?
They did. In the ring action, I thought was really good, but this is where the announcers started to slightly get on my nerves, because Dusty has some like rant about tradition that he's just going on saying the same thing for ages, and I think he cuts off another announcer when I think they're trying to bring things back on track, and then from then on I felt like Tony Schiavone was just openly mocking him, just like taking the piss out of him. And they also, like, it's a good match, and they work well together. And there's a good moveset between them. I feel like DDP's growing. He's starting to develop into maybe a bit more character. And Eddie Guerrero, he's just awesome. He's got the charisma, he's got the moves, he's brilliant. And we also get the Nick Patrick is the referee here. I don't think he was for the opening match. I think this is his starting point. And he's got a neck brace on. And he's they point out that he has seemed to have favoured the NWO. And for whatever reason, my mind started wandering to, well, why would this be allowed? And I was like thinking, if you try to pretend that this is real, that this is all, a sporting event, this referee has a neck injury for starters, and
that
has
is
been
favouring
shown,
quite heavily.
Yeah, and has been shown to have favoured this particular group in the past. So whose idea is it to just let him be out there officiating matches tonight?
That's a good point.
It seemed to me like they were going to create problems for themselves by allowing that.
Should we be looking into who's allocating the referees to the matches? Could it have been Bischoff? Long-term No, I wouldn't have done long-term storytelling.
Why? See, there's a point in the match where DDP's got Eddie on the outside and they're fighting and he's chopping him. DDP's shouting, "Come on, girlfriend," at Eddie.
I don't know what that's all about. The commentators were saying that, and I was kind of thinking, did you hear him saying that though? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I heard it. I heard what I thought was that, and then one of the announcers said it, and I was like, I did hear that right.
That's quite weird. There was just before they end up outside. There's some quite cool couple of bits. Eddie feigns a couple of dives out, and he does it twice, and DDP sort of moving out of the way, and then he just drops down out of the ring, gives him a big chop, and runs him in the barricade. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think Eddie must end up getting injured or something at some point, because this kind of was rolling for a good 10 minutes, quite nice and fast, and back and forward, and then it slows right down into a really awkward diamond cutter, and just sort of like, I was going to say out of nowhere he gets the pin, but not in a diamond cutter out of nowhere, like not like that, more like he does it and then just pins him and then that's it sort of thing.
Yeah, because even I think the announcers say something like, I'm not sure he got all of it, like they're almost calling this isn't going to be the end of the match, but it does end the match. I'd wondered the same, because he'd been really selling his knee when he was doing like the overselling, Eddie, when he was but when it slowed, I couldn't tell if it was maybe still his knee, and I thought, because it no longer felt like over the top selling.
He did dive out from the top rope, and he seemed to land like right to the outside, and he seemed to land and bang both his knees on the way out, so he maybe just ended up hurting himself. DDP did a really cool spinning sit-down powerbomb, which really should have been his finishing move, because it was very cool.
Yeah.
But yep, DDP gets a diamond cutter and wins, and takes away the Battle Bowl ring, which
I felt like they were really selling the diamond cutter here, which always helps a performer. They're talking about the fear of it, the risk of it, the danger of it, and all that, sort of putting over the finisher for him.
That's the last couple of. Although I do remember saying to you that I thought the DDP match last time went far too long, far too long. This one was good.
Yeah.
Interesting to see where he is in 1997.
Yeah.
Okay, Iron Mike Tenay is backstage with Randy Savage. Mike Tenay just decides to just stop trying to stop laughing and everything, and he's just killing himself laughing at Savage.
Yeah.
Savage is cutting his usual type of promo. Tenay's loving life.
It was. So this is like they're auctioning off. Were they auctioning off a monster truck? Is that what was happening here, or giving away a monster truck?
They did like a raffle type draw for it. Yeah.
And I immediately thought, oh, is this monster truck going to play a role in the show? Is that what's going to happen? And but when Savage is just he's over the top. He's doing his thing, and yet Tenay cannot keep it together. And I kept thinking, if this was Mean Gene, like, he would hold it. He'd maybe be laughing a lot inside, but he would try and hold it. But you're right, Tenay, at a point quite early on, just stopped. It's like, I can't. I'm just going to laugh away and let you do your thing.
And he just kind of gets lost in it, and he's just about to make get Savage to make the draw, and then he's like, oh yeah, there's terms and conditions, and then like immediately goes back into business mode, reads the terms and conditions, and then Randy pulls out the winner and offers to take the winner on a date in their monster truck. Lucky lady.
He says something about breaking Hogan in half as well, and I'm always trying to figure out, because we're only months past the turn, aren't we, for the Hogan joining the Outsiders and forming the NWO. So we're not that far on from there, because when I think of the NWO, when it's just got everyone in it, to me I had thought this was going to be this really cool phase where it was very, very limited numbers, and then that almost gets ruined straight away, because as soon as I realised Savage isn't in it because he's facing Hogan in the match later on, I thought, right, maybe it's just like the three guys. And that's what I wanted it to be. And I don't think I realised how little time it must have been that it was just the three guys. Why did they do that? Because here we've got Ted DiBiase, who's like coming across as some sort of manager or leader for all the NWO talents.
Yeah, like their mouthpiece.
Yeah, and he is like announcing them from up in the balcony, because they're going to have a slightly different walk-in area than the rest of the talents, which is, I don't mind them coming in from a different point in the arena. That's fine.
Yeah.
But just at that exact moment, I was like, oh no, they've already
Vincent.
oversaturated the NWO. They've already ruined it, and it's been weeks.
I know. This is what I couldn't help thinking. We were going to get onto this later, but since we're talking about it, well, Giant had made the turn, can only made the turn the last pay-per-view, because I want to say they had War Games where it was NWO and they did the whole fake Sting thing, and as they join in the NWO, and the Giant had made the turn then. But I feel like the way that this is booked, right? So, for example, the Outsiders versus Harlem Heat. Harlem Heat are 100% not faces, right? So you've got what should be two heel teams, but people, there's loads of NWO t-shirts in the crowd. People are cheering Nash and Hall. There's a huge Diesel chant going. They booked themselves into such a weird situation within, like you say, a couple of months of this kicking off. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's not surprising, is it? Really?
Yeah. Because, so it becomes clear here that Giant, like you say, is NWO. And he has the US title belt, but he's not the champion. Is that right?
I think he stole it from Flair.
Yeah. He talks a lot about all the places he's going to stick Jarrett. I felt a bit of the wind go out of me when I saw all this and heard all this, because keep it for 6 months as just the three guys or whatever. You can go a long way with just the three guys.
Yeah, like, what is the impact? I think Giant might have possibly been champion when he joined.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't go beyond the impact of Hogan joining them. Vincent joining the NWO doesn't eclipse Hogan joining the NWO. The Giant, I understand.
Yeah, I get that one. Yeah.
Like, Dibiase, also forward WWF, Hogan, Hall and Nash, all outsiders, come from up north to take over WCW and all that. Sean Waltman is also, but then Giants no. So, like, with
Giant
that, it's gone.
Yeah. I think, the Giant joining at a point later down the line would have made absolute sense, because, say he kept being screwed and it became a I can't beat him, join him type situation or something like that. But you've rushed that. It doesn't feel like you get the payoff for it because you hadn't established it for long enough the other way.
And I guess Sting at this point is disappearing. Sting's obviously not on this pay-per-view. They're talking about him not being seen for a while. They had the whole...
they've decided to go, I think that's going to be the long story, which, it's no issue with that. That's one of your sort of franchise players in the WCW, and the right guy, I think, to be this sort of mysterious, what's he going to do, what's going to happen type character. But it just all felt very rushed, the whole thing.
If that was done now, though, it would be even more rushed, because there'd be 3 TV shows to do a week, so you'd have had... Can you imagine? Anyway, our next match, so like you said, you've got Ted DiBiase up in the crowd, and he's been this sort of mouthpiece for the NWO. I quite like this whole thing they've got going on here, where he's doing like a little introduction of the member of the NWO, then the music's playing, they're coming for the crowd. But it does feel a bit sort of fan favourite-y, them coming from the middle of the crowd. But anyway, so this is our Giant versus Jeff Jarrett match. What do you think?
Like, there's quite a lot of, like, I think in a match like this, because there's quite a lot of stalling early on, and that makes sense from a Jarrett point of view. You just look at the two guys, and he maybe does a bit of running about and dipping in and out of the ring. I can make that logical in my mind. I kept thinking, eventually some stuff starts happening, and it's Giant power and what can Jeff realistically do. And then there's always sort of the threat of Flair on the outside, and I think he's got a chair at one point, and I was half expecting him to just leather Jarrett with it. And then there's you get Giant was athletic. He was an athletic guy. He could move. He could do some impactful moves. I suppose you don't want him doing it all the time because I think it takes away from it if he's doing it all the time. And this felt like it wasn't going to be a squash, but you were supposed to believe right from the outset that Giant's going to destroy this guy.
Yes.
But it never grabbed me. I don't think at any point I really cared what was going on.
I thought it was all right, actually. I thought it was just going to be a squash. I thought Giant might just wreck him. But I quite liked Jarrett doing the whole winding him up and then running away from the corner and giving him a kick to the leg and stuff. I was going to say made it believable, but you know what I mean. It was. Yeah. I think if that was WWF, he'd have grabbed him by the throat and chokeslammed him, and it would have been over.
3 seconds. Yeah. There was they gave Jarrett some bits and pieces, like you say. There's a moment where Jarrett puts him in the figure of 4 out on the floor, and I don't know if they catch it properly, but they tell you the story of what exactly happened, which is the Giant just basically reaches across and just grabs him by the throat. He's got so long a reach that made absolute sense, which I quite liked, and I think they indicated he'd maybe done that to Flair as well when they'd had their match. So yeah, I struggle. I always struggled with Jarrett because I just didn't care. I was like, he had go away heat for me, so he comes on. I wanted to change the channel basically, and it's not to say he's a bad wrestler. It's not to say he's a bad performer, but it just didn't click for me.
Didn't work for you.
The Giant, I don't know. Sometimes I quite enjoy watching him, and sometimes he's just kind of there.
I think this version and last year's version of Giant is the biggest wasted talent. He must be in the top 5 wasted talents that there's been. Anyway, Flair ends up low blowing the big man and gets DQ'd, and that's it, really. The crowd are booing the Horsemen, but the NWO are supposed to be the bad guys as well. Again, that dynamic's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Because I think they all come flying out, don't they? All the Horsemen come flying out once they get the disqualification, and Schiavone's saying the NWO are cowards. They won't put up a fight when the numbers are against them and all this sort of stuff. So again, weird dynamic.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just terrified of Mongo McMichael.
You wouldn't want him putting a wrestling hold on you, because he doesn't know what he's doing. So
chop blocks and suitcase walloping.
I do like we go. It just goes straight back, I think, to Dibiase in the stands here.
Yeah.
And the way he speaks, as he calls it, one more win for the NWO, and it's that. You know that annoying guy that just makes the best of every bad situation, that's just see reality and talk about that. He is an NWO guy, and he's presenting it in his own way. I quite like that. Just in a annoying, get under your skin kind of way.
He's definitely good at the kind of, and this goes beyond $1 Million Man character. That sort of over the top preacher type character. Yeah. He does that well.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. So Syxx, Sean Waltman, X-Pac, whatever. Syxx, they give him the microphone, and it's kind of that's not really his thing. Yeah. He says something like, Jericho is a fine young athlete, but he will be crucified for WCW sins. And he says all that in a sort of normal voice, but he's X-Pac on the mic, he just screams and shouts, and he's just suddenly he just starts screaming and shouting. I don't even know what it is that he starts saying, but he said that's the line that he was clearly told to say. He says it and then just starts bawling and shouting.
Actually, I used to always think
respectful of Jericho.
Yeah,
Dibiase is respectful of him as well.
Yeah, and I thought, is this deliberate? Is this going to be a guy they approach, try and recruit? How is this going to play out? But maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just a throwaway thing. But I was also thinking, see when X-Pac used to speak, from my memory of the watching wrestling regularly on TV, he was always part of a group. So he would just do a little bit and then it'd be on to somebody else. And that kind of worked because you knew and he knew his role and he was hyper and aggressive and high pitched and all that. But then you'd just move on to somebody else. Whereas when he's speaking on his own in isolation, that's it just doesn't work for me.
Mm-mm. Nah, not at all. The irony is he's got a really good podcast, Sean Waltman. He speaks really well.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've never actually heard the podcast, and he's a great worker. He's an absolutely brilliant worker.
And to your point, it's a good match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall a lot of Jericho X-Pac matches at all, like 98 or 99. But it's a really good match.
Yeah.
I think it kind of feels like they both get their greatest hits in, sort of thing.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if this was kind of designed to showcase the talents of Jericho. I felt like it was when I was watching it. I felt like this has given him a really good platform to do his stuff and show what he can do. Because, again, working with a guy like X-Pac, Jericho can be the bigger guy. He can be the stronger guy, but he can also take bumps. He can, kind of show off a full repertoire. But they've got pretty good chemistry, I think, the two of them.
Yeah, definitely. What about Dusty in this match? He tells Brain not to get flabber busted.
The one of the early scares I got in the match, we see the Taskmaster with the Dungeon of Doom and Conan in the crowd just over the barrier. And I was looking for that thing, like that blue thing.
the He-Man character.
I thought, imagine he's just sitting in the next chair.
Dripping body paint on some poor woman. Yeah, they must have got rid of him pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We never got any sort of proper understanding of what they were doing. Was that the Guardian Angel, or was it Big Bubba that was with them? I don't remember Conan being in the Dungeon of Doom either.
Nah, me neither. Yeah.
Must have jumped to the NWO pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good match as far as in ring, but the story of this match is Nick Patrick again being completely at it. Slow counts for Jericho, and he's down nimble as a cat as soon as Syxx hits the what does he hit him with?
Spinning heel kick, is it?
Spinning heel kick, yep, and it gets a 3. But that's what the story is. This one.
Yeah, I felt like it went from he's maybe doing an okay job as a ref to all out, over the top favoritism. Yeah, he really you could be left in absolutely no doubt where you. And I think he actually helps X-Pac back up or they help each other back up the ramp after the match.
Ridiculous. Okay, backstage with Iron Mike Tenay, he is with Lex Luger, who looks like a scarecrow. He looks terrifying. What is he doing? The very first Halloween Havoc we saw with Lex Luger on it, he had soaking wet hair and he looked like an absolute badass. He looked like He-Man. Yeah. Now he's decided to let his hair dry without doing anything with it, and he looks like a scarecrow.
Yeah.
It's not a good look, Lex.
Yeah.
He's very angry, and he's looking forward to beating up Arn Anderson.
Yeah, the thing I found quite funny about it, because his main gripe seems to be there's this NWO faction, which is a huge threat to all of them, but rather than the WCW guys unite and be all together and be a united front, you've got groups like the Horsemen who are taking out the other WCW talents rather than helping them and supporting them. So I could get that. I could understand that from a storyline point of view. But see when it comes to the actual match, regardless of, I can't get behind Lex Luger. I just I wanted Arn Anderson to kick the shit out of him.
Well,
Sorry, Lex. But they can tell the story, and everything Lex was saying in that promo was Mr. Righteous, Mr. I think I prefer him being more of a dick, just a sort of backstabbing, double-crossing, untrustworthy dick. Whereas here, I felt like he was supposed to be the good guy, because it's hard to judge with the Horsemen, good guys, bad guys, whatever. I think they've been on each side so many times, but yeah, I wanted Arn to destroy him.
That's Arn bias, though. Possibly.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Arn is creeping into Christian territory for you and I think. Underrated.
Yeah.
And just brilliant. I think what was annoying me about Luger was that last Halloween Havoc, he was aligned with the Dungeon of Doom, and the Dungeon of Doom are clearly cheering him on in this match. But like you say, he's been all sort of righteous about it. Mm-hmm. I didn't particularly love the match. I believe Arn Anderson was quite badly struggling at this point.
Okay.
I was listening to Bischoff's podcast talking about this event, and they'd said him and Conrad both talking about this being Arn's sort of last big match because of the issues he was having. Something about losing the feeling in his hands.
Yeah, he lost the feeling
like a neck issue or something.
And yeah, it's all linked to a neck problem. I was listening to him speaking about where I think he went to the gym to try and do his workout that he would normally do, and just one arm, he couldn't do anything, couldn't function one of the arms. I kept thinking, what a different world the wrestling business is. We're fairly normal people, and we're like, this hand isn't functioning. I can't do anything with this arm. I mean, that's panic stations right there. That's a problem. Whereas these guys, I think, are just a bit like,
It's annoying, but I'll be able to make it through.
Yeah, I'll do the
my
match.
Next 4 weeks of bookings.
Yeah, weird.
I didn't think that Luger would have been. Arn's a big man. I didn't think he'd be able to get him up for a torture act. He gorilla presses him.
He did.
Right early on as well.
Early, yeah, which was just after my favourite moment in the match. I can't remember what Arn did, but it was some sort of power move, and then he mocked the muscles, so I feel like he was flexing himself and stuff. I absolutely loved that.
You keep saying he ain't so bad to the crowd. Class. How does this one finish? Torture rack. He just quits, doesn't he?
Yeah, he puts him in the torture rack and he submits.
They do a thing where both guys are working on each other's backs, and the thinking is that he's setting them up for the torture rack, or he's setting them up to not be able to do a torture rack. It's all right. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So Arn quits, and Lex keeps the torture rack on for quite some time.
Yeah.
After the bell, and then we have Jarrett and Flair coming out to check on Arn, and the story they tell is that Arn, Jarrett, and Flair are off to the hospital all together, and that'll come into play in the next match.
Yeah.
Backstage, this silk-voiced angel, Lee Marshall, he is hawking the hotline.
Yeah,
Mean Gene's sitting at home thinking, what have I done wrong here?
But I think Mean Gene would be loving it, because this guy's selling it, and it's probably just lining Mean Gene's pockets, I would have thought.
Good point, actually. I love that he's saying that he's encouraging children to try and find out where Sting is by phoning the hotline.
Yeah.
Now remember, kids, ask your mum and dad for permission, but you must phone this hotline. Then the Harlem Heat. Is this what was his name? Robert Palmer or Parker? Robert Parker. Colonel Robert Parker, Sensational Sherry, and the Harlem Heat come in. Booker T has got the audacity to tell Lee Marshall to shut up, which is disgraceful. I do not like Stevie Ray, do you? Something about him just annoys me. He just seems like a nasty man.
I also felt like I could have done without Parker and Sherry here as well.
Yes, me too. I like Sherry. Sherry's class.
Yeah, like back in the days where she was like sensational Queen Sherry beside heel Macho Man. I loved that stuff. I thought she was brilliant at that. And then the Shawn Michaels story when he broke off on his own and she aligned with him. I thought she was perfect for these roles, but she's just annoying me a bit here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're telling a story which I don't think should be anything to do with anything that's going on, because they're telling a story about Parker and Sherry, and he like proposed or something, or
He's supposed to have been married, or
and she dinged him, or whatever happened. And I thought, well, you've got the Outsiders, you've got Harlem Heat, you've got like this competition for the tag titles, and are they going to be taken to the NWO and all? You don't need this weird story between a manager and this woman. It just seemed
two managers.
Yeah, it just seemed unnecessary.
I agree. That takes us back to the ring. I've got a new favourite tag team. We've got the Faces of Fear with Jimmy Hart, which is the Barbarian and Meng, taking on Steve McMichael and Chris Benoit, and they have Deborah and Woman with them. Multiple Valleys was the big thing in WCW in 1996, apparently.
Which one of these is your new favourite tag team?
Oh, the Faces of Fear.
Okay.
They're amazing.
The one thing I couldn't get with them, because I think this is going to sound awful. I think I've maybe mixed these two people up in the past, so it made sense for them to be aligned and in the same tag team. You've got Meng and the Barbarian, and they are these badasses, and they look terrifying, and I don't want to mess with them. It seems really weird to me that Jimmy Hart's their manager, because they're really like, really plain dark clothes, things like that, and he's got his really loud suits and his megaphone and all that. It seems so strange.
I don't think Haku would respond well to a little hyperactive man shout, come on baby, with a megaphone.
Yeah, weird. I wondered, as soon as I saw them come out, it crossed my mind as, where are we with Benoit and Woman? Because, the story that has been told is that she was with Kevin Sullivan, she left Kevin Sullivan, she's with Benoit, they're both in the same company. This is a bit messy, and I had thought that when I watched The Dark Side of the Ring, that I think covered the whole tragedy that happened, that they talked about the fact that some situations got a bit stiff between Benoit and Sullivan, and one of the first things I've got in my notes here was because they talk about life imitated art, so they'd aligned them before they actually got together, and I thought, I wonder where we are here with that whole thing.
It plays out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mungo is Steve McMichael here? Is he Mungo? Yeah. I think Siobhan is referring to him as Mungo. He has a steel briefcase, which they seem to be referring to as a Halliburton.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to you?
No. Not at all.
Does it seem like the Horsemen bought his services, and that seems to be the story?
Yeah, I think that's
why the fuck would they do that?
Yeah, I don't know. They that was a mistake.
So let's just ignore the first sort of 5 minutes of this match, because it's just McMichael and Haku running into each other really hard and fast. And then they do some sumo wrestling.
Yeah.
And then we get some chop blocks because, McMichael was an American football player and that's all he can fucking do. However, at one point this turns into a wrestling match, probably when Benoit comes in.
Yeah, it was.
And the Faces of Fear do a move I've never seen before, where Haku back body drops him right onto the Barbarian, who then power bombs him.
Yep. Loved that. This team could have got over massive, because these are huge, scary, intimidating guys. But yeah, I was waiting for the wrestling, and the wrestling, you're right, I've got it in my notes. Benoit comes in, so now the wrestling starts, because the other guys are very good at being badass, powerful, terrifying guys. Michael's not a wrestler. He's never going to be a wrestler. We know that. But Benoit brings some wrestling into it, and he's able to work pretty well with these two big, powerful guys. But he does some selling, like for some of these high impact moves. And he was always good at selling, Benoit. He really he tells the story of the pain he's in as he's going through it. So I ended up really quite enjoying a few segments where Benoit's just getting his ass kicked, basically.
There's a brilliant spot where the Barbarian launches him from one corner on the top of the turnbuckles, belly to belly, overhead, belly to belly. Basically throws him from the top of the turnbuckles all the way to the other corner of the ring.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. He's away miles high in the air. There's a little subtle bit where Benoit's starting to get back on top, punch, and then he headbutts the Barbarian, and it just stops him in his tracks because you can't headbutt a Samoan. Love it.
Yeah.
This one sort of goes the way of WCW shenanigans, doesn't it? We get the Barbarian doing his headbutt from the top rope, do we?
Yeah.
And then Mongo breaks it up. He smashes Haku with his Halliburton briefcase. Benoit gets up, gets a headbutt, and that's enough for the win.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop there, though. Barbarian doesn't take this well. He beats the shit out of McMichael. And it's at this point that little poison dwarf, Sullivan, Big Bubba, Conan come into the ring, and the five of them just destroy Benoit.
Yeah.
It's like a gang jumping. They're just like beating on him.
Yeah. It's
for quite some time. Woman gets in the ring, and Sullivan gets an incredibly strange look in his eye. He starts undressing and talking about him being a big man. I'm the real big man. And I believe that's what the sort of real life stuff seemed to be about. Does that track with you?
I think so, yeah. Because I think there was a story told that she in real life had fallen for Benoit, and then there was an incident and she left Sullivan. I think an assault or something like that had happened. But how bloody complicated a situation where all three parties involved are all working for the same company, and you're in the middle of an angle that is involving the three of them. It's another one of those. Wrestling's not like real life. You know, you're unlikely to find yourself in this kind of situation in real normal life. But yeah, as I was watching the beating, I was thinking, well, I think there's always been stories. I think Conan and Benoit were quite close. I think Conan was quite linked with a few of the Benoit Guerrero group. So I thought he wouldn't be laying it in if this was getting real. But I was really trying to look at the just Sullivan and Benoit interaction to see is there something real here. And the way it played out, I was thinking it's happening as we're watching. I'm pretty sure.
When the Radicals join. When did they leave and join? 98?
98, yeah. Because Benoit is still Benoit becomes world champion in WCW.
That's what I was going to say. It's amazing. Sullivan put the belt on Benoit.
Yeah. And
after him having an affair with his wife.
I think they were trying to keep him because I think they knew of the interest and the contract situation. I suppose it's amazing that he actually chose to leave. They put the belt on him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still going to go."
Oh, I'm going though.
Yeah,
that must have been 99. Was it?
Yeah. Was it not Was it the Mania 2000 where Benoit and Guerrero both held the titles?
No, you're further on than that. Mania 2000 is Jericho, Benoit, Angle, 2 out of 3 falls.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's further on than that.
It's about 20. It's WrestleMania 20.
No. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's 20. Yeah. 2000 they jumped.
Oh, did it? Was it 2000?
2000 they debuted anyway in WWE.
There you go. Aye, so he's got a bit of growing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I never want to see Kevin Sullivan staring at somebody and undressing that way. ever in my life. It was all a bit full Monty.
I did like that they set it up properly. Like there was a legitimate reason for Flair, Pillman, Anderson not to be there to help out. They'd at least told that story, because I get the feeling there's been times of watching wrestling shows be like, why wouldn't they help him? Why? Yeah.
Okie doke. Outsiders versus Harlem Heat match is up next for the tag team titles. And first thing that sort of hit me in the face when these four were in the ring was just how, I don't know if it's how small the rest of the card's been so far. Obviously the Giant's been on, but how big these four seem to be. It's like going from watching cruiserweights to heavyweights or something.
There's something so effortlessly cool about Nash and Hall. Like,
Hall especially.
I just feel like they're not even trying though. Like they're basically doing their thing and being like, yeah, whether we get that type of reaction or that type of reaction, who cares? We're here, we're doing our thing, and it's just, there's a coolness about them and a charisma that just very few people actually have.
Yeah, I agree. Something I appreciate. I think we always say I love watching Hall work. He's criminally underrated.
Yeah.
But what I appreciated with Nash in this match was how slow he was moving. And I know that sounds like a criticism, but I liked the way he was methodically, just slowly. It sort of emphasised that he was the giant of the match and he was the intimidator and all that sort of stuff. I really liked that.
Yeah. That was cool.
We get a bit of the whole over the top rope ambiguity again.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gets clotheslined. No, it's a hip toss over the top rope, I think, isn't it?
Booker hip tosses
Hall. And the commentators are giving it, was that his momentum? Did he mean to do it? And it's just like, give it a rest. Get rid of that rule, please.
Yeah, I was amazed it was still here now, actually. I remembered it being a thing, but I would have thought it'd be long gone by now.
We get Diesel chance for Nash. I think that annoyed him. He looked annoyed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Made me laugh. This one sort of goes back and forward quite a lot. It doesn't really follow any sort of tag team style formula.
Yeah, I thought at the start, because the outsiders totally dominate the start, and I thought this is going to be one-sided. But then they started giving the Harlem Heat quite a lot. Like they at points looked like they were more than holding their own. Which I don't know if it's just that thing that's in the back of my mind that the outsiders came in and just ran all over everyone, because that's kind of how the story goes. But they did give quite a lot of selling. Hall's a good seller. He's a big guy, but he's a very good seller.
Definitely. And if anybody was doing that, he was the sort of one that was being isolated.
Yeah.
They do a sort of spot where it looks like both guys, I think it's Booker and Hall, they've been going back and forward for quite some time, and they do a spot where they bang heads, and they look like they're going to both crawl to either's partner, get the hot tags, but Hall doesn't get there. And it kind of looks like it would be the traditional hot tag to Stevie Ray, but it's just all a bit flat.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what they probably hoped would happen. But like you said earlier, they were never baby faces, Harlem Heat. And with the manager crew that they've got, they're not going to be baby faces. So that's not going to turn them. So it was, I don't know if the entire match was just, we need to get the tag belts on to the outsiders, because you wouldn't, I think, look at these two teams and think, let's pair them up, because that'll get us, a good reaction. It'll get somebody over. It was more of a, not to say nobody got over, because as I say, I think they actually gave the Harlem Heat more than I expected them to in the match. But you didn't feel like the crowd were sympathetic necessarily towards the Harlem Heat for losing the titles to this group that are basically trying to destroy the company.
Yeah, and they were getting booed at quite a few points as well, Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
Finish comes where Booker hits his Harlem Hangover.
Yeah.
All right. Sort of somersault leg drop from the top rope, and you see Nash fully taking the boot in the face.
Yeah.
That looks like it's going to be it. But Palmer,
Yeah.
Parker. Parker's in the ring. He's got his cane. Nash essentially takes, it's like the old candy from a baby type thing, where he just like takes it off him, smashes Booker, and Hall drapes his arm over him. They take the tag belts. That's it.
They're being the announcers were being quite harsh on Parker here, because they're basically saying, because when Nash confronts him, he does just kind of hand over the cane, and the story they're telling from that, cause he hightails it out of there, Parker, as soon as that's done. So the story they're telling is he's saved himself, but basically given up the team. So I assume this would be the last time that the Harlem Heat are associated with Parker. I'm assuming.
The next thing, and you might have fast forwarded past it, you might have no notes on it, but they do a trailer or an advert or whatever for World War III, which is traditionally their next pay-per-view. Did you watch it? The advert for it. It's absolutely insane. Some guy asking his like a middle-aged man, looks a bit like what's the guy in Dumb and Dumber that's not Jim Carrey? Jeff.
Okay.
He's got that kind of strawy long hair.
Okay.
Like him, and he's like all over the place, going bananas, asking his mommy if he can watch World War III. Anyway, it was
I did watch it.
terrifying.
Yeah. I did. I didn't make any notes, but I did watch it. Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird. Okay, we're in the crowd with NWO again. We're with Hogan. He has got Sting-style spiky hair. He is, but what a bizarre sight that is.
Oh,
it's
I
like
was
he's
totally thrown. Like it took me so long to work out what the hell was going on, because I was like, well, it's not his hair. And then I thought, it's a wig, but are we to know it's a wig? Is he trying to pretend it's not a wig? I was a bit thrown by that.
It's like, because Hogan always has he had the ability to grow that area of his hair.
Just chose not to do it.
But like Kane, where he's like purposely shaved it across that area, that properly got me. It got me. Hogan's, in the early days, he must have really lent into the Hollywood gimmick, and he's talking about how he's body slammed Hollywood. He's finished up his latest Three Ninjas movie, and he's got Santa with Muscles coming out in December, and he's decided to come back and body slam WCW, and it really showed how much they were leaning into this Hollywood gimmick, because he's clearly not fully bedded into what he becomes, is he?
Yeah. It's funny, because it got me thinking. I was listening to the Freddie Prinze Jr. wrestling podcast.
Oh yeah.
And he basically was talking about best and worst wrestler turned actors ever. And there's a few names. I think we probably landed on the one I would agree with for best, which is Batista. I think he's kind of head and shoulders above, to be honest. And when he was talking about the worst, he just went straight to Hogan. Like, it's like, if you like, he can't act. He can only be Hulk Hogan in whatever scenario. And he said, now you can say The Rock or Dwayne Johnson is kind of similar to that, but he's in better films and he's had far more success and people want him in their films and all that. So, whereas Hogan, it was a bit like, okay, we'll give this a try. One last roll of the dice here, and it never worked. It never made a big amount of money or anything like that. And I started thinking about films. I think there's probably only about 3 films that I've actually seen him in, but they are all awful. Like, he's terrible.
So what's the one with Tiny Lister? We've spoke about it before.
No Holds Barred.
No Holds Barred, aye. Dookie! That's awful. Yep. I've never seen Santa with Muscles, have you?
No, I've not. No.
Or the Three Ninjas ones?
No.
I've seen Suburban Commando, and as a kid I loved Suburban Commando, but I'm sure it's awful.
Yeah, I think it probably is awful. I remember thinking, was it Rocky 3? It's Rocky 3, isn't it? But he's
good as Thunderlips.
Oh, brilliant! But I don't know that there's a whole lot of acting, when.
Well, he would. I don't know when that was, but that must have been. That was sort of that Thunderlips character was what he was in the AWA before he was like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Santa with muscles I've never caught. McKinsey's Island, I don't know that one. The Secret Agent Club. Spy Hard. He's in Spy Hard.
Is he?
Spy
Hard's amazing.
Must just be a cameo. He had a wee cameo in Gremlins 2, I remember.
Does he?
Yeah, they're like watching Gremlins in the cinema with all the Gremlins, and it's all getting a bit rowdy, and one of them tears through the screen, and Hogan sits up out of his seat and shouts at them all and tells everyone to go back to enjoying their movie or something like that. It's just like it's like 2 minutes. But yeah, he's never carried a film. He's never been the key component in a film, being what it was. Maybe Suburban Commando, maybe. But yeah, I thought because we definitely had a bit of back and forth about Batista and his performance in Cabin in the Woods. Both really impressed with the performance.
Oh, it was great. Carried that film.
Yeah,
100%.
and the fact he seems to be wanting to do different kinds of things. He's not playing the same role. He's not playing basically himself quite a few times or over and over again.
He's not like a big muscly guy.
Yeah, he's like a proper actor now, a real actor, which probably can't be said for all that many of them.
True. Can I confess something to you?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll like it.
Okay.
I thought Hogan was brilliant in this match, and I really, really enjoyed his performance in this match.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I wanted a different outcome, but that's just storytelling. That's fine. The actual match, like, see what happens at the start, because I got a bit concerned when I saw Savage come out in a monster truck.
Me
and
too.
I was thinking, where are we going with that? But that's fine. We get you've got the intensity of Savage and Hogan kind of being really cocky and running scared in those early moments.
Chicken shit style stuff,
which I thought played really well. For some reason, I really liked the fact that for ages, Savage still had his sunglasses on. And,
Hogan still had his sunglasses on.
Hogan still had his sunglasses on. And,
Savage ended up taking them and wearing them.
Yeah, Hogan still had his sunglasses on, and then Savage rips off Hogan's wig.
It's amazing.
And one of the announcers said, "It's a convertible, and the top is down." And I burst out laughing when that was said.
That must have been Heenan. That's class.
I assume it was, yeah. But yeah, like bell to bell, this was a pretty good match.
I love the image of Savage with Hogan's glasses and his wig on, just beating him up. He's got the blonde wig on. Yeah. And then they're out fighting in the aisle and he starts feeding it to him. And Hogan's like walking back down the aisle all dazed with the wig poking at his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what you want from Savage. You want him to be a bit out of control, and the whole, mad kind of attack on the outside that was going on just felt kind of perfect. Savage. And Hogan giving it plenty with the selling, looking quite scared and intimidated, and then kind of not knowing where he was at points in time as well. I thought he played that well.
He did. It's almost like a different Hogan. Well, it is a different Hogan. It's heel Hogan, but almost self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Which you clearly don't see very often. I probably could have done without the Elizabeth storyline that was introduced to it about halfway through. But I get it. Elizabeth, Hogan starts putting Elizabeth between himself and Savage to sort of stop the attacks, which is good fun.
You son of a bitch.
Big boot by Hogan onto Savage. Elizabeth gets in the ring. She lies on top of Savage and all that sort of stuff. Hogan goes for the leg drop and misses, and Schiavone he's just getting wild. He's never missed the leg drop.
some of the verbals from Hogan to Liz were quite. Like, he kept saying, "You are mine," and I was like, I don't know, like in a good way, because I think he was really leaning into it. I was like, this is uncomfortable. This is
Savage's not gonna like that.
I mean, God, he's probably been divorced for about 10 years by this point, but yeah, he's not going to be happy with that. But yeah,
Linda just throwing TVs about her house watching it. I knew it.
I thought he played it pretty well, and she's not as in the like late 80s and early 90s. Miss Elizabeth was like the ultimate vulnerable character.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't give off quite the same vibe here. It wasn't quite as it used to be. But I do understand why they put, because how many people watching this will have watched the Savage v Hogan on WWE, and she was the key component to that storyline. So I did understand it, but she didn't. I didn't feel like she carried the same vulnerability, because it was there, and that was one of the main selling points of the story, I think, was her tears and her which way do I go, and all that, and they were trying to recreate it and trying to make it a thing.
And they were trying to sort of do it like business versus heart sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's good business to be with NWO, but Dibiase hands Hogan some sort of weapon, but Elizabeth seems to grab it from him. Poor Pee-wee Anderson gets ref bumped, smashed into the corner. Here comes steroid trial era Vince McMahon. Oh no, it's Nick Patrick with his with his neck brace. We get flying elbow for Savage. Patrick counts 1, 2, but then his sore neck prevents him from count to 3. Don't mess with Savage in that situation. Don't mess with Haku in that situation, because they'll wreck you. Savage nails Hogan with the weapon that Hogan had, and here we get the Giant and Dibiase coming out to save Hogan. He chokeslams Savage on the floor, rolls him back in, and they put Hogan on top, and Patrick counts the 1, 2, 3. Nice quick count. And that was it. A little bit unsatisfying finish, like you said. Are you laughing at Giant bringing out... Oh, you're laughing at what comes next. Yeah. Giant brings out a bowl of ice, and he's like... It's sort of like watching your kid bringing your birthday cake towards you. Like, you just know where this is going to end up. He pops it on the side of the apron and then spills half the whole bowl of ice. Did you see him doing that?
Yeah.
I like that. That's a little detail that they use the bowl of ice to wake up Hogan, and he's sort of playing to the fact that he has no idea about what's happened, and he's looking at the title like, "I won, yes," and he's like really celebrating.
Yeah, it's a wee bit like overdone, but I don't know. Given everything that's happened, I think it plays pretty well.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Hogan gets on the mic, and you've got him and Giant in the ring, and the fans start littering the ring again. I was thinking, there's this bash at the beach again. Hogan's trying to do one of his promos, and the fucking bagpipes start playing. I've got my notes. Oh, for fuck's sake, is this Piper coming out? Of course it's Piper.
I had a rant to you, because I don't believe a person should finish up a program with Randy Savage and then for it to be played as, oh yeah, you took care of Savage, but now you're in trouble because here's Roddy Piper. Like that annoyed me. So right from the off, I'm annoyed. But what I did not expect was the absolute shambles that seems to unfold here, because I don't know, did Bischoff talk about this when you listened to his pod about the event? Because
no, they talk about it. Both him and Conrad are like talking about such an amazing promo that Piper cuts.
Oh no, like I felt like he was either going off script or overrunning or doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. Hogan is audibly trying to bring him back.
Yep.
And then close it however it is supposed to be closed. But he just keeps going. And that can't have been planned. It didn't come across planned. It didn't come across the way it was intended to go at all. And it just seemed like a bit of a shit show. But, like, they got in the bit. There's a bit where basically what Piper's saying, I thought I knew where he was going. Because he says something like, it wasn't you that brought all these people here. It was all these people that made you. And I thought, yep, okay, yeah, you're having a go. He's turned on the people.
He's baby facing it, yep.
Yeah. But then he starts making it all about himself, Piper. And I was thinking,
I'm as big a film star, I'm as big a wrestling star as you ever are.
Yeah. And I thought that was really weird, because if you're starting off on this, stop pretending you're bigger than the people. I'm bigger than the people. That's
I'm bigger than you.
Yeah. I was like, this is weird. And then I felt like he started just going off on tangents and then round in circles. It was all over the place.
And every time Hogan tried to bring him back, he's like, no, you listen to me. So Hogan's like, okay, I'll listen to you. Yes, you will listen to me. He starts talking about WrestleMania. He talks about having his way with Liberace. When he starts out, he says, bear with me, folks, because I'm shooting on this one. And it's like, oh, God. Hogan must have just been like, oh, no. What's he going to say here? But like you say, Hogan does try and cut it off or bring it back round to where it's supposed to be going, and he just shouts over the top of him a couple of times. The last thing that this did was make me think, I really want to see what happens next with Piper and Hogan. I feel like I'm missing something with Roddy Piper, clearly.
Like, if you go back and watch, like, the really early WrestleManias, he was clearly a big player and he was clearly the big heel. And he, I think there was a thing for a really long time. I don't think he lost. I don't think he lost by pinfall in matches. I think they kind of protected him for a very long time. But the sort of Piper, like, my main memories of Piper are like the Intercontinental match with Brett.
Yes.
That's kind of usually my go-to moment in my mind, and I remember that quite fondly. I think that played off well. Sort of the older veteran almost belittling the younger guy, and I thought he played that role really well. And the match was really good. But I've never thought of him as a top level threat. I've never thought of him as the guy that comes in and is going to headline pay-per-views for the company.
Like a sort of Mr. Perfect type level, like a intercontinental upper mid-card type.
Yeah. So I felt it was even more annoying because I quite enjoyed what I'd just watched with Savage and Hogan, because it was pretty good. And if somebody was offering me more of that and saying, okay, Savage kind of got screwed here by a dodgy ref, you've got somewhere to go, I'd be like, yeah, I'll watch the next one. But I'm like, are we done? Are we just on to Piper?
Yeah, you think like the natural next step would be, I want him in a cage where the NWO can't get involved.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
But nah, Savage is gone. Weird. I think they do Hogan versus Piper at Starrcade that year.
Ah, well, we won't see that.
No. The good news is Halloween Havoc 1997, your main event, Roddy Piper versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
No, it's not.
It's
Why?
in a steel cage, no less.
Says he's here a year. He's like, I really thought he'll be out here in months. Oh, he's here a year.
I think he's working the sort of limited. I don't think he's there every week, and he's not there every pay-per-view or whatever. But
oh God. Tell me about some awesome undercard stuff so that I can.
Yeah, sure. I'll just out of interest, just got to look to see what Wrestling Observer gave some of these matches. Malenko Mysterio got 4.25 stars, which is quite
Okay.
big. 3.25 for Syxx versus Jericho. 3.25 for the Outsiders and Harlem Heat. Understand that one. That was it though. I think it was a pretty decent.
Yeah.
Pretty decent overall pay-per-view.
I probably wasn't expecting to enjoy the main event that much, and I did. So that it's like a bit of a pleasant surprise.
Aye. Nice. Okay, here we go. 1997, Halloween Havoc. I'll just say we're for our movie next year, next podcast, 1997. We're going to watch Cube, which is about 6 complete strangers with widely varying personalities are involuntarily placed in an endless maze containing deadly traps.
Yeah.
Never seen that one, so that'd be interesting. You're saying you've seen it, but
I've seen it. I don't really remember it. I think 20 years probably. But, yeah. So don't remember it, but I looked it up and I thought that should be pretty good.
Good news. Commentary team for 97: Schiavone, Tenay, Heenan, Rhodes.
Okay.
So when I say good news. Okay, singles match. Yuji Nagata with Sonny Ono versus Ultimo Dragon.
Okay.
Gedo versus Chris Jericho.
Okay.
So Jericho's not climbed much in a year. Or went down even. Cruiserweight title match. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. That's the classic.
Nice.
You know, Rey's got the full purple suit on.
Nice.
That's a good one. Singles match. Alex Wright versus Steve McMichael. Yes, now we're talking. Man versus woman match.
Oh no.
Jacqueline versus Disco Inferno.
Oh no.
We're looking at Observer, 5 stars there, surely. United States heavyweight title match. Kurt Hennig versus Ric Flair.
Okay. Okay.
Special referee match. Larry Zbyszko as referee. Luger versus Hall.
Okay.
I think every match is a 1-on-1. That must be unprecedented. Sudden death match. Which be interesting to see what that entails. DDP versus Randy Savage.
Okay. I can get behind a match between those two. Yeah.
Wonder if Savage is in NWO by then. Must be, yeah.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
And main event is a non-title steel cage match. Roddy Piper versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Non-title. Oh well.
Aye.
So Piper will win. Okay. There'll be some decent stuff on that, I think.
Mysterio Guerrero. That match is amazing. I know that for sure.
Nice.
Okay. Well, listen, WCW pleasantly surprised us this time.
Yeah.
Let's hope. Let's hope it continues. I can remember what 1998's main event is.
Oh no.
Can you?
No.
I think it's part of the reason why we didn't keep doing 1998. Does that ring any bells now?
No, it doesn't.
No?
But you're making it sound like we're in for a treat.
I think it's Warrior Hogan.
Oh no. Oh. At least we'll be able to rip the piss out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Anyway, that's not to be worried about for a month. We've nearly done all these Havocs. What have we got? 97, 98, 99, 2000. 4 left.
4 left. Okay.
Okay, we shall chat again in 2 weeks.
Yeah!
Until then, Adam, will you be watching Crown Jewel on Saturday?
Oh, is it Saturday? Is there anything interesting on it?
Yeah!
We've got LA Knight versus Roman Reigns. Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. I don't think I'm going to entice you. Seth Rollins, who's he? Oh, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre.
I could see that being interesting. Could I see it being interesting enough for me to watch?
I'm going to say no.
Probably not.
I don't know who else. Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest.
Yeah, I could find some enthusiasm for that if they've taken Damian Priest where I would have taken Damian Priest, but I just don't know where they're kind of at with him right now. Has he got the briefcase?
He's got the briefcase. Judgment Day are still like the sort of main heel faction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I will definitely watch it.
Yeah.
But
That turned around pretty quick.
I'm sure it won't be great.
Yeah. Okay.
We shall definitely not discuss it in 2 weeks' time. We shall stay away from that nonsense and discuss a time when it was much, much the same.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks. Take it easy, buddy.
Cool. Cheers.
See ya.